Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about John Keats's poem, The Eve of St. Agnes. Now, this is a fairly lengthy poem. It's a Gothic poem that sort of brings in a lot of your standard Gothic type iconography. We have religious elements, sort of mystical, occult type religious elements, particularly in the sort of prophecy associated with St. Agnes. That basically, if you're an unmarried woman or virgin, which in the ideology of the Regency era was more or less the same thing, you could sort of fast, basically go to bed without having eaten dinner, and do certain rituals, say certain prayers, and then in your dreams, St. Agnes would give you a vision of the man you were going to marry. So we got those sort of religious, mystical, occult elements. It takes place at night. There's a medieval type setting. All these kinds of things. These sort of core aesthetic elements of the Gothic are definitely there. It's a creepy poem, in my opinion. Not in like a cool, like, Halloween, bats, jack-o'-lanterns, witches flying across the moon way, in a like, this isn't technically sexual violence, but you have to say this isn't technically sexual violence type way. So we've got these two protagonists, two main characters, Matilda and Porphyro. They're kind of in a Romeo and Juliet type situation. Matilda's family apparently hates Porphyro's family for reasons that are unstated, or they just hate Porphyro specifically. Not 100% clear as far as I remember from the poem. But Porphyro and Madeline are in love, and they can't be together because their families hate each other. So, on the eve of St. Agnes, Madeline's family has this sort of big party feast thing, and Porphyro decides, so Madeline decides that she's going to do the St. Agnes ritual. She's going to go to bed without dinner. She's going to say the prayers, do the rituals, whatever the thing is, and she is going to get a vision of her future husband. Porphyro sneaks into her family's party. Again, this is very Romeo and Juliet style. Not to crash it, but because he knows that there is a servant, an older female servant of this family, who, again, for reasons unknown and not necessarily that important to Keats, is a fan of Porphyro. She is hashtag Team Porphyro. And basically he goes to this old woman and is like, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you can, like, sneak me into Madeline's bedroom and give me a bunch of food so that while she's sleeping, I can set up a feast for her. Because apparently that's how you woo someone, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand it really, but that's Porphyro's plan. His strategy, the big romantic gesture, is not to stand out on her lawn with a boombox, which is also a problematic thing, but to go into her bedroom without her knowledge, wait till she's asleep, and give her a bunch of food. Bear in mind, this is the hero, folks. This is the person that we're supposed to want to get the girl. So that is kind of what happens. Let me find the right bit here. Um, okay. So where it starts to really get creepy, and again, not technically sexual violence creepy, not good creepy, is that Madeline, without knowing that Porphyro is in her room, goes in, starts getting ready for bed, right? So part of that, okay, is the prayers to St. Agnes, the specific prayers you have to say to get your husband to dream. Okay, no worries there. But then she starts undressing for bed and goes in and falls asleep. And Porphyro is like watching this from a closet. This is very much peeping Tom shit that he's doing here. So maybe in Keats' era, when Keats wrote this, that was regarded as quite a romantic thing. No, not so much today. Not regarded as a good thing to watch someone undress and get ready for bed without their consent. Hashtag woke. So we get this section. So I'll read you a couple of stanzas that I think are the sort of relevant stanzas to the first stage of the creepy bit. Full on this casement shone the wintry moon, and threw warm gulls on Madeline's fair breast, as down she knelt for heaven's grace and boon. Rose bloom fell on her hands together pressed, and on her silver cross soft amethyst, and on her hair a glory like a saint. She seemed a splendid angel newly dressed, save wings for heaven. Porphyro grew faint. Yeah, he can see what she's doing. She knelt, so pure a thing, so free from mortal taint. Anon his heart revives, her vespers done, of all its wreathed pearls her hair she frees, unclasps her warmed jewels one by one, loosens her fragrant bodice by degrees, her rich attire rustling to her knees, half hidden like a mermaid in seaweed, pensive while she dreams awake, and sees in fancy fair St. Agnes in her bed, but dares not look behind, or all the charm is fled. So, yes, she is taking off her clothes. And the language here is also, okay, so on the one hand, there's the sort of direct she's taking off her clothes element. Yeah, so there's that element of it. But the language here is also extremely suggestive of losing her virginity. Like, phrases like unclasps her warmed jewels one by one. There's a long sort of recurring standard metaphor in English literature where a woman's jewel is her virginity. Loosens her fragrant bodice. The idea of like maybe sort of loosening. So the bodice was basically a kind of corset, right? And one of the only times that a woman was traditionally sort of allowed to really loosen her corset was when she was pregnant. So there are these implications or these associations with the loss of virginity, with coming into sexual maturity, etc., etc. But then we go on. Soon trembling in her soft and chilly nest, in sort of wakeful swoon perplexed she lay, until the poppied warmth of sleep oppressed her soothed limbs and soul fatigued away. Flown like a thought until the morrow day, blissfully havened both from joy and pain, clasped like a missile where swart Paynims pray. I don't know what Paynims are. I'm sorry, I didn't look that up. blinded alike from sunshine and from rain, as though a rose should shut and be a bud again. And again, we're getting some sort of she's losing her virginity type vibes from Keats's language here. As though a rose should shut and be a bud again. One of the synonyms for losing one's virginity, particularly for a woman, is to be deflowered. So, I mean, Keats is not really pulling his punches here about what's going on. But then, strangely enough, sorry, I'm trying to make sure I can actually see this text. So, strangely enough, once Madeline falls asleep, Porphyro puts his plan into action. Remember, his plan is to set up a feast for her while she's sleeping. I guess so that when she wakes up, she'll be amazed that the feast is there and want to marry him? Don't know. I don't understand it. I think it's a terrible plan on Porphyro's part. But then we get this next bit. Awakening up, he took her hollow lute, tumultuous and in chords that tenderest be. He played an ancient ditty long since mute in Provence called Les Belles Dames Sans Merci. Those of you who are Keats fans will recognize instantly the phrase Les Belles Dames Sans Merci. It is the title of one of Keats's most famous poems, which also came out in the same year this did. I think they both came out in 1819. So yeah, he threw in one of his own poems and was like, yes, it's an ancient ballad. Ooh, and that's very Gothic, right? Like the idea of like found ancient texts is very, very Gothic. But basically, Porphyro's plan is like, I'm going to set up a feast and then I'm going to play her some music. What a ridiculously terrible plan for not getting caught in her room without her permission. But what happens is, close to her ear, touching the melody, wherewith disturbed she uttered a soft moan. He ceased, she panted quick, and suddenly her blue afraid eyes wide open shone. So that idea of like, she's panting and moaning, again, very sexual. Upon his knees he sank, pale as smooth sculptured stone. Her eyes were open, but she still beheld, now wide awake, the vision of her sleep. There was a painful change that nigh expelled the blisses of her dream so pure and deep, at which fair Madeline began to weep, and moan forth witless words with many a sigh, while still her gaze on Porphyro would keep, who knelt with joined hand and piteous eye, fearing to move or speak, she looked so dreamingly. So basically, she wakes up, she had been dreaming of Porphyro, St. Agnes had sent her this vision of her future husband, and then he was there. Porphyro was the person that she dreamed of. And then a little bit later, she's basically like, oh, Porphyro, this is such an amazing dream. I'm so happy that you're the person that St. Agnes has sent me my vision of my dream, which I'm currently having. And rather than saying, oh, actually, JK, this isn't a dream. I'm real. I'm Porphyro. I fucking snuck into your room like a creepy-ass weirdo. He's like, well, let me fuck you. So they do. They have sex. It says here, into her dream he melted. If you know what melted means. Yeah, basically, he takes advantage of the fact that she has dreamed of him, and has sex with her, while she thinks she's still dreaming. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat on that, a little bit of an asterisk. Does she think she's still dreaming? It's hard to tell. Keats says that she does think that. And I'm not going to challenge him on that. It's his poem. He made this stuff up, so whatever. It is what it is. But it kind of doesn't make that much sense if you're thinking about this in terms of how does reality work. But following them having sex, we finally get this line from Porphyro. "This is no dream, my bride, my Madeline." Yeah. He waits till afterwards in the morning when she's like, "Holy fuck, that wasn't a dream," to be like, yeah, I knew it wasn't a dream. Surprise. And she's like, "Oh no, now that you've gotten what you want, you're going to abandon me." And he's like, "No, I'm going to marry you," which is apparently a good thing. Yeah, that's. I wouldn't want to marry Porphyro, if I'm honest. I think he's a creepy fuck. I don't like him. I think he basically rapes Madeline, even though she doesn't seem to see it that way. I strongly disapprove. Again, hashtag woke.